Hey, welcome back everyone. In this video we have success and failure. Hey, welcome back to the garage everyone. Well, the inevitable has happened. I think anybody with a OM617 engine is already quite familiar with this. These rubber standoffs, well, they break, right? In this particular instance, on my car, you'll note that the rubber broke, really, it broke even with the bottom, even with the bracket, pretty much. There might be an 1/8 or a 1/16 or so left on there. I'm sure some of that rubbed off, but in the last few days I noticed a rattling sound, and I was wondering where in the world is that coming from. Then I started fiddling with the breather and I noticed that it was moving all over the place. Then I removed it and found that all three of these were broken. The more I looked at this, the more I realized that how stupid of a design this is. So you have this, which it goes into a hole in the bottom of the breather. That guy right there, right, goes up in there like that, and obviously there's a nut inside the breather to hold it in. The other half of this is another threaded shaft that goes through the bracket, and then there's a nut on the underside. Okay, well now you've got all of the vibration of the engine is going through this piece of rubber. It's moving it up and down. It's moving it from side to side, and none of the force, the vibrational force, is transmitted or taken up by the threaded shaft. It's all taken up by the rubber. All right, as with any old car, when you start digging into things, you can figure out what you got to take apart and what you don't have to take apart. So, in order to get these little guys off of here, we got to take the bracket off the car, and that involves taking off I think this is the oil line to the turbo. No big deal, 2 bolts, and I'll have to replace the gasket there. You can see the oil starting to drip out already. I need to get a rag underneath that so we don't make a huge mess. All right, and that should give me enough room. Enough wiggle room anyway. Yeah, there we go. I should be able to get that bracket out of there. Stand by. Yeah, okay, so with the oil line a little bit loose, give you enough room to get the bracket out of there. Someone may have figured out a way to get this out without taking that oil line off, but oh well, no big deal. So these standoffs, it looks like they're screwed into this bracket. Obviously, I've never taken one of these brackets apart before, because I'm asking questions here on video. I've got to find a way to I've got to get that unscrewed out of there. So I've got to figure out a way to do that. All right, that's next. All right, there was no real way to grip this, what was left of this, to turn it out of there. So I gripped it from the other side with my pair of vice grips and broke it loose. And then, since I boogered up the threads, cut the remainder off with my cutoff tool, and I will leave good threads, and then I'll go ahead and turn this off with my vice grips. All right, you'll see where I use the vice grips to break that one loose. That one's a little bit tougher, so now I'm going to cut this guy off with the cutoff wheel, and then use the vice grips to come at it from the big end to get it all the way out. Wouldn't be a car video without some sparks flying. Easy peasy. Alright, so it's a little tricky to get this thing out of here, but the vice grips are your friend. With the rubber on it, really makes things a lot more difficult. I suppose I could burn it off with a torch or something. Probably could have broken it loose with a cold chisel and a hammer, but you know, it is what it is. There we go. All right, I took the third one out off camera since you'd already seen that process, so that cleaned up pretty good actually. got a couple of grinding marks on the bracket there. So really, I just need to wash this bracket off a little bit. Well, all right, we've got our air cleaner or breather bracket reattached to the engine with the new bushings installed. I had been thinking seriously about trying to make some of these, but I eventually gave up that idea. Mostly because I didn't want to fool with it, didn't have time, I'm ready to move on to other things. I discovered this little issue with the breather just on a general inspection and sort of got sidetracked on this, and I'd like to get off of it and move on to different things. However, so I would say a few helpful hints on removing the bracket from the engine. There are just 3 bolts that hold it onto the intake manifold. These 2 on the top, and there's one right back there. Now that one's a little bit tough to get to, but it's really not an issue. So I'd recommend a couple of long extensions and with a little swivel on the end, and you can sit way back here and you can get in there and get to it. So that wasn't really a problem either. So you've got a vent tube on the turbo here that goes into the breather, and that goes right there. The O-ring on most of these is shot, so I just got a standard O-ring out of an O-ring kit that I got from the parts house for that. I'm not sure if it's going to last. It may get a little hot there, but I'll check it later and see if it does. Another thing is, in order to get the bracket off, you're going to have to loosen the oil line to the turbo. You take this bolt off right here. Let's disconnect the oil line, which means you're going to need to order a new gasket. So I did that as well. Here it is Friday. I've been waiting all week for the new gasket to arrive. I've also ordered a new wastegate tube. It goes from obviously from the wastegate up here to the turbo. So these, a lot of the time, these are deteriorated, and you can see right there that this one definitely is. It's just broken. It was probably broken by me doing all of this work. I don't think it was that way when I started, but who knows? Well, anyway, I've got a new one. So just looking at the old hose on the engine, it's a little smaller than what I ordered, and I'm not sure what I ordered is the right length, to be honest with you. I ordered the wastegate hose for an OM617 Turbodiesel, and it came in from Mercedes-Benz of Fairfield, Connecticut, and we got this through FCP Euro. I like their website a lot. So this is the hose they sent me. It's very stiff, very rigid, very thick-walled. I don't know if that's going to work. I'm going to have to get down in there and see if I can't, and see if that's going to work. So stand by. All right, forget about the other hose I just showed you that I got in from FCP Euro. Obviously, they sent me the wrong one. The inside diameter was much too large, and it was a little too short, so it's probably for a different engine. To get the engine running for right now, I just went ahead and used some fuel hose to get me going for the next few days until I can get the right part. Up next, we're going to scrape off our old gasket and put a new one on here and tighten down our oil line. Alright, just to fill you in where I'm at, so I've got a razor blade and I am slowly whittling away at the oil gasket, which has been on there for 35 softly driven years. You're thinking to yourself right now, I said, wow, that doesn't look so bad. Well, yeah, it is. Anyway, no, I'm just being facetious. It is kind of a pain in the butt, but it's kind of slow. And I've been working at it for about 10 minutes now. So a few more minutes and I hopefully get this gasket material off of here and get the new gasket on and button this thing up. In the meantime, what I've done is I've taken some paper and kind of tucked it underneath that oil line. You don't want to do that too much because you don't want to, this thing is off of here about 2 or 3 inches. And you don't want to do that too much because you don't want to bend the oil line, because that would be, well, you'd have to make another one out of some. There are oil line kits for turbos out there on the internet. You can pick them up for a few bucks, but it wouldn't look stock. And to be honest with you, I have not found this stock turbo oil line for an OM617 online anywhere yet. So if anybody knows where there is one, I'd go ahead and buy it and keep it in your back pocket in case you ever need one. All right, we got the gasket material cleaned off, and lo and behold, I think we avoided getting any debris down in the oil hole. Went ahead and used some electrician's tape. I put it over the hole like that, and I just used a small razor blade. Took a little bit of work, but you know, that gasket material has been on there for many years. All right, so we've got our brand new gasket here, and we're getting ready to put this guy. No, we're not, because it doesn't work. I ordered from FCP Euro. I ordered this turbocharger oil line gasket. What they sent me was the lower gasket. So the gasket they sent me is 603-187-0580. This is the lower gasket for the lower oil return line. This is the oil feed line, unless I'm a maniac and I don't know what I'm doing. I'm assuming the top line is the feed line and the bottom line is the return line. So I looked on Pelican. They have a different part number for this gasket. I'm going to go ahead and order that. It actually looks quite a bit different. For you guys that know more about these engines than I do, you can probably spot that right away that that's the wrong gasket. So, okay, so you know what? Fail. We failed for the weekend. Maybe it's because I ordered the wrong parts. Maybe they just sent me the wrong stuff. Maybe the databases are wrong. I don't know. But anyway, we got to wait a few more days before we can get the breather back on this car and get it running again. So sorry about that, but hey, can't win them all. But in the meantime, please like and subscribe. My goal is 1,000 subscribers. Take it easy. So I would note that after I replaced the switchover valve and cleaned this vacuum line down to the Alda and cleaned the vacuum line from the switchover valve all the way around to the back of the intake manifold, the drivability of the car was actually improved. I was impressed. The idle was improved somewhat, and the smoothness in general of the acceleration was improved. So I was really pleased with that. One thing to note, I also replaced these little vacuum hose fittings. You can get these for like $1.50 a piece on FCP Euro, or change that one out there and that one there. So there you go.